All right, well, that music means it's time for another episode of Market Shares. Hello, my friends. My name is Tony Blodgett, your host today and every single week here at Market Shares. And today, I'm going to talk a little bit about what everybody else is talking about, and that is the pending recession. You know, I'm already tired of hearing about this recession that we're supposed to have in the next, year or 2 years or whenever it might happen. But, I got a message for the loan officers and also just for the general public out there about this word recession, what it means, what it's likely going to look like, assuming that it happens, and why we got to be careful and choose our words carefully when we're talking to our clients or we're putting out videos on social media. Recession is a word that I think for most people is, brings out fear in them. And many of us, really depends on your age, of course, but many of us think back to what happened in 2008 when we hear the word recession. And for those of us that were already homeowners or in the process of, building our life as an adult when 2008 hit, it was a terrible time, and it brought a lot of pain, a lot of darkness to a lot of people. But here's the thing about the recession, the Great Recession that hit in 2008. And the reality is that recession was driven by housing. Housing was the cause of that recession. Mostly the overabundance of credit that was available to purchase houses. And so people bought houses that shouldn't be buying homes. People bought homes with financial instruments that were risky and all the like. So I don't need to go into the details of that, but the reality is there's many things that can cause a recession, and the housing crash in 2008 caused that recession. Now, we can think back to 2000, early 2000s, right, with the tech bubble. That had nothing to do with housing. Matter of fact, interest rates got better. Home values went up during that recession. Matter of fact, home values go up and interest rates go down in almost every recession that we've ever had. And that's the message that I really want to get out here today, is that when we talk to our clients and we mention that a recession might be happening in the next 18, 24 months, whatever the case may be, they think back to 2008 because that's the most modern idea of a recession. Now, we certainly had a recession in 2020 with COVID, right? It was a very V-shaped, quick recovery, but it was a recession nonetheless, and that was caused by a pandemic. But also look what happened. Home values went up, interest rates go down, right? That's what happened. So what we're dealing with right now is if in fact we get into a recession, it's going to be driven by inflation. And it's going to be driven by the Fed's actions, aggressive actions to curb that inflation, which I will tell you is absolutely necessary. But the Fed's raising interest rates doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go into a recession. Now, it's pretty likely, and the reason why is because the Fed is just not great at doing this. They're not always great at controlling their monetary policy in a way that allows the economy to speed up or slow down gracefully, let's say. And so this idea of them being able to orchestrate what you would consider a soft landing here is highly unlikely. And the main reason for that is because they waited too long. They thought inflation was transitory. They thought it was going to go away, and I'll argue many people did. But the Fed is not allowed to get these sort of things wrong. Otherwise, there's big implications for us. And they waited too long to start raising interest rates. Matter of fact, the last raise they just did was only 25 basis points. They're now predicted to raise 50 basis points here in April, May, and June, potentially. So the next three Fed meetings are expected to see a 50 basis point increase. Now, all of that is already factored in and priced into the market. That's kind of a known thing that's going to happen, which I'll talk about what that means to us in a second. But the reality is the Fed waited too long. And so had they been proactive at raising rates, maybe they could have brought us to a soft landing. But now they got to do this, right? They have to get really aggressive. They got to be out vocal about it. They got to almost like scare people, let them know this is what we're going to do. We're going to be really aggressive. We're going to unwind the balance sheet. We're going to flood the market with all the mortgage-backed securities and treasury bonds we've purchased over the last couple of years. And they almost create this fear, and that's part of the reason why you see rates going up as quickly as they have. Now, here's the thing. They haven't actually raised the rates yet. They've only raised them a quarter. They're going to have to follow through with all these other raises that are already priced into the market. And let me tell you this, friends, that if we start seeing signs of an economic slowdown before the Fed gets through their action to raise these rates, that's going to be an interesting story because they won't be able to follow through on raising the rates that is already priced in, is already expected for them to do. They've already forecasted for us that that's what they're going to do. So, this is a moving target. This is the kind of thing where you have to tune in every week and listen to market shares to see what's going on because there is no way to know for sure how this is going to play out. But look, the Fed has set us up. There's a lot of talk about a recession. And we will have to see if, in fact, that happens. Now, just really quickly, let's talk about the actual definition of a recession. It's really simple. If you Google it and look up the actual definition, all it says is an economic slowdown that's typically measured by 2 quarters in a row of lower GDP. So 2 quarters in a row of lower GDP is, by definition, a recession. But the reality is any economic slowdown is a recession. But here's what is anticipated to happen in this recession. First of all, it's going to be nothing similar to what we experienced in 2008. There is no data out there. There's no trend lines that would lead us to believe that there's any way we see the same sort of housing market crash or correction or any such thing that we experienced in 2008. That is off the table as far as I'm concerned in any economic outlook that I have reviewed. Rates have gone up a lot because of inflation, and it's expected that with the Feds raising interest rates and inflation coming down, and if we do go into a recession, interest rates will lower during a recession. The third thing is, it is projected that home values will, at worst case, flatten out. There may be little pockets here and there where you see a slight decrease in value, but it is actually widely anticipated that in 2022 and 2023, home values continue to increase, albeit at a much lower pace than what they've been. And frankly, that's good news because we've seen home price appreciation in the double digits, 20%, 23% in some markets. You guys, that's just not sustainable. So to see a much lower 3, 5, 7% appreciation, that's what we're looking for. That's more sustainable. And so that's what we expect to happen during this recession. That's not bad news. That's fine. That's going to happen. Lastly, the stock market. Believe it or not, everything that I'm reading is that there is not expected to be a huge correction in the stock market. Now, they are projecting significantly lower gains than what we've seen over the last couple of years, kind of like with home value appreciation. It'll be less, but it's not expected to be negative. So it's not the time to, I think, really panic about your stock holdings. Maybe you diversify a little bit if you've been in really aggressive. Maybe you get a little bit more conservative. Look, I'm no financial advisor, and this isn't intended to be advice there. I'm just saying, from what I'm hearing and reading, it's not expected to be a huge crash in the stock market. So look, from the sounds of it, the word recession, although it does invite fear into most people, and we should be careful about how we talk about it. But the reality is home values should remain the same or go up a little bit. Interest rates will likely come down. The stock market is not predicted to crash, and it's expected to be very mild in comparison to what we experienced in 2008. So don't be afraid of recession, but do recognize, please, that your messaging can be fearful to people. And don't just throw that word around if you're not going to be prepared to share with them some of these details I shared with you about why it shouldn't keep you from purchasing a home, why it shouldn't keep you from liquidating all of your stocks, etc. Don't be fearful of what's happening because although inflation's high and rates are higher than we've seen, home values keep going up, but you know what? Rents keep going up too. So you got to live somewhere, and there's no end to the increase that we see in the rental market as well. So you might as well bite the bullet, purchase a home now. And the good news is you'll likely be able to refinance that mortgage in the near future if and when there's a recession. And even if there's not a recession, we do know that inflation will eventually come down by the Fed's actions, and interest rates will come down as a result. So you guys, that's my message today. Choose your words carefully. Don't put fear into your clients, because you may think that you're sounding like an expert, and you may, in fact, be scaring people away from wanting to get involved in today's real estate market, and there's no reason to be fearful. Hope that information's helpful. I hope you guys are enjoying Market Shares. We're trying to drop these episodes every single Friday to give you something to look forward to. Please tell your friends, like and subscribe to this channel. We want to grow our presence. I'm building out my lineup right now to not just bring more content like this, but invite some really exciting guests to the show. So make sure you subscribe. I'd love to see you on future episodes as well. And until then, take care. Bye for now.